The presentation you're about to watch is absolutely free and public. It's part of a nationwide initiative started by NotaryStars.com, OnlineNotariesPublic.com, and Unlimited Ink Notary to help notaries and loan signing agents alike to become more involved in the lawmaking processes within their state. These episodes are paid for by our current memberships. If you find value in these episodes, please consider joining us at www.NotaryStars.com. And remember, together we are unlimited.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to Notary Stars Unlimited. Please allow me just a minute. I have to deliver my public service announcement here. If you are listening to this episode while you're driving in a car, we ask that you please remain off camera and in listen-only mode. And if you're listening to the replay while you're driving, please watch the road. We want you to be safe. Don't watch your screen. Today is May 17th, 2023, and this is a once-a-month free event hosted by NotaryStars.com, Online Notaries Public, and Unlimited Ink Notary. This year, we're encouraging you to get motivated to stand up for your notary business, either by joining a state advocacy group or by formulating one of your own. My name is Beth Hathoot. I've been a notary for nearly 22 years. Should say I'm in my 22nd year, and I'm also currently the lead instructor for Notary Stars. Tonight, I'm joined by Ronnie Nickel, who's been a notary for more than a decade and also is the founder and owner of NotaryStars.com, OnlineNotariesPublic.com, and the nationwide signing agency, Unlimited Ink Notary. Throughout this year, we are honored to have been joined by some of the greatest notary advocacy groups in the country, including the California League of Independent Notaries, the Georgia Notary Network, the North Carolina Notary Network, or Network for Notaries, I'll get that right in a minute, the Ohio Society of Notaries, and the newly formed Arizona Notary Alliance. If you missed any of these important monthly sessions, we highly recommend you visit our YouTube channel and scroll all the way down to the bottom. Our Notary Stars Unlimited series is kind of towards the bottom of that YouTube page. That's where you can watch all of the replays from this year and the previous 2 years. Also, for newer notaries, that same series has a 12-step setup to ensure you're on the right track for success in your notary business. Now, tonight we're bringing yet another change maker into the fold with Marcy Tiberio from the New York, I hope I said that right, Marcy. And she's from the New York Alliance, Notary Alliance, and Marcy is known for being a skilled leader, an expert notary, and mentor. Her background as an assistant vice president of a national title company and as the closing department manager for a multi-state mortgage banker offered her a unique understanding of the importance of having quality national signing company. And that's when she launched Professional Notary Services, Inc., PNS for short, and she did that in 2013. With a commitment to professional standards and integrity, Marcy regularly educates and mentors notaries. She's on a mission to elevate the industry and provide the best customer service to all. In 2022, she launched the New York Notary Alliance and Notary Life to better serve the needs of notaries. She's been a speaker at the National Notary Association and other industry events and conferences. She contributes content to several national notary organizations and was named 2015 NNA Notary of the Year honoree. Most recently, she was named the 2023 RBJ's Women of Excellence honoree. We'll start out tonight with Marcy, and then we'll check with any of the state group representatives who are here this evening to see what's going on in their neck of the woods, any updates they might have. And Ronnie, I think that's all. We're ready to get started. Do you have anything you want to add, or are you going to just kick off the shindig?
Actually, I do have something I want to add. I said I wasn't going to, but you guys know me. Camera lights up, the faces are here, and I have some things to add. First of all, I want you to stick around to the end because I'm going to be very happy to introduce a new company or a new product that you might be interested in. It is called PDF Utility. They're going to be here with us tonight to present. So please do stick around to the end because we tried to have a conversation, outside of the advocacy thing. This is probably one of the harder sessions to get people to attend because it is something that is hard. It's challenging, to think, how can I get involved? But first, before I say anything else, I want to ask if everybody would please just turn on their cameras for just a moment. We have a guest in the house, a first timer here with Marcy, and I would really like for everybody to turn on their cameras and let's just give her a signature wave to, make sure everybody welcomes. And no matter what you're doing, you can turn that camera on for just a moment. Make sure to give that signature wave. Let them know that it's safe here, that we are judgment-free zone here. We love to welcome new people. And okay, so I see as many cameras on as we're going to go. Before we bring Marcy up, I want to say this, and I really want, no matter if you're watching live or if you're going to be watching the replay, I want to ask you this question because I think it's really important. If you woke up tomorrow and you received an email that said you are now only allowed to charge $1 for a notarization, and you can only charge gas and mileage, and if you're caught doing anything other than that, you'll be thrown in jail. Now, that's an extreme case, right? Probably not going to happen, but it could. And what if you woke up tomorrow and there was an email that went out and it said, from now on, all notaries must perform online and pay the fees and endure all of the fees and can't pass that along, and you can only charge $5 per notarization. These are things that can actually happen when you don't participate. And I will tell you, I owned a company before Unlimited Inc., another multi-million-dollar company. And I was present and I screamed really loud. But the problem was I couldn't get my industry to scream loud enough alongside of me. And maybe you think this doesn't affect you, but if you came here tonight, you're probably interested. If you're watching this replay, you're probably interested. And I want to encourage all of you, after we, talk to Marcy tonight, take an action. Matt's been on the emails lately, sending out things that we need to take advantage of, especially if you're in the California market. I'm going to tell you, if you think you don't have a voice, you have a much louder one, and there are strength in numbers. Okay? I have already been a part of one industry prior to this industry where, excuse my language, I got my ASS handed to me. I was in business, I was up and running, and then a law passed, and overnight, literally, the next day, I was out of business and bankrupt. Now, most of you won't be able to wouldn't go bankrupt because of the business, but definitely it would hurt you. You've invested a lot in this industry, and I have to say that you have to get involved locally. And I don't mean with Notary Stars or Loan Signing System or Sign and Thrive. I mean with advocacy groups. And if you don't have one, you formulate one. Take the training of becoming a notary and making the money as a notary out of the equation. Think like a business owner. Get involved in groups and start listening to the other groups. Tonight we have someone from New York. You might be sitting in, I see Californians sitting in here tonight. You might be thinking, what does New York have to do with me? Everything, because what's going on in New York could happen to you. And what's going on in your state could happen to them. It's important. And there's an old saying, if you know anything about the Indian group, keep your ear to the ground. You can hear it coming. So you want to keep your ear to the ground. And that's what we're doing by having this session. So with that said, I'd like to welcome Marcy to Notary Stars Unlimited, where we talk about people who are not just focusing on one training group, but actually focusing on the greater good of the craft and the career that we can all have. Miss Marcy, are you ready to come up there? You are made a co-host, by the way.
Great, thank you so much. And thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna jump right off of what you said and talk a little bit about what I feel is a success story for us here in New York. So I've been a notary for a long time. I won't tell you how many years, that'll show my age. So we're just going to pretend like it's only been a couple. We've been thinking about starting an advocacy group for quite a while. And I'll be honest and say we were very blessed during COVID to have been so busy. And many things that we thought we could get done sort of sat by the wayside because we were working in our business, right? This is a blessing to me now that it's slowed down a little bit because I have the opportunity to do all the things that I didn't have time to do when I was working in my business now to work on other things. So New York is, if you're not in New York and you're outside of New York, we have quite the reputation, right? It's not the easiest state to do business in. We have a lot of attorneys here. It is difficult. Taxes are high, all of those things. And that's very true. Interestingly enough, though, for however strict all of those laws are when it comes to banking and things, notarial law here is very much sort of like the wild, wild west. We didn't have any sort of standard for identification. You could take whatever you wanted. Nobody cared. You didn't have to have a journal. It was very sort of low key in that if you called the Secretary of State to get any information, they may or may not answer their phone. They would normally direct you back to the notary manual, which wasn't and still isn't a great resource. If you had to get information beyond that, they would ask you to fax in your question. It would take anywhere from 3 to 6 months to get an answer. Attorneys here aren't required to take the notary exam. They, by virtue of being attorneys, get their commission, which is difficult because they don't know the notarial law. So we run into a lot of that. It isn't a great, or still wasn't a great space for notaries here. You kind of were left on your own, and we know how that goes for some notaries. It's not helpful, right? And even the good notaries who needed some assistance or support weren't getting it. So we always thought about starting this advocacy group here. We thought it was important. After the slowdown of COVID, we sort of decided that was an opportunity for us to get involved. It was incredibly difficult. And I say that from a standpoint of our Secretary of State is not involved or never has been. All those examples that I gave only got worse during COVID and kind of continued along the way there. No one would talk to us. We kind of had to find other ways to get involved. So what I think is interesting is sometimes notaries are their own worst enemy, right? Apathy is the enemy of most notaries because they feel like nothing's ever going to change, so why bother? Or there aren't enough of them, or that no one's going to listen. And I completely understand that. Like I said, we didn't get a lot of support here. So we went some other ways about it. I have a long history in real estate, mortgages, banking, title companies. So that's the route I went. I went to the New York State Bar Association. I went to the New York State Land Title Association that I've been longtime members of, that people knew me, that the attorneys knew me. And I said, hey, here's the stuff that's going on. Here's where we have concerns. Can we have a conversation? Can you hear me out about what's going on? And throughout the year, we were very fortunate in that many of them were very open to having conversations. I volunteered with the Land Title Association to talk to state legislators about their legislation that was going through. And then I sort of piggybacked on it at the end and said, oh, hey, can I talk to you a little bit about some of the legislation that's going on for notaries? And they were like, sure. So we really spent a lot of time kind of going through the back door and hoping that that would help us. Ron was, being proposed at that time. And notarial law here in New York has never been what I would say predominant. It would sit in session and then die a slow death pretty much always. So we knew that Ron was going to be the one thing that we could jump on. There were enough lobbyists who were pushing for it that would be something that would give us a little bit of a jump or a way in. And it really did. We started a petition. We spoke to multiple notaries across the state. We talked to attorneys. Like I said, we went to bar association meetings. We went to land title association meetings. And eventually we were able to get some of those, upper echelon individuals who did have an in with the Secretary of State to say, hey, we hear what you're saying and we agree. when the legislation was pending and they asked for public comment, we went through and did a great job, I think, the notaries, of giving suggestions, and we put it all together. And we submitted to the state hoping that they would pay attention to it. And fortunately for us and for notaries, they did. They reached back out to us and said, you know, we appreciate your comment. Thank you so much. Here in New York, we have a printed sort of court reporter that talks about all legislation that's passed and who contributed and listed our association. This was, probably 2 years in the making to get someone to really pay attention to what we had to say. Did they take all of our suggestions? No, they didn't. But we were grateful for the ones that they did. And we were extremely grateful that we had the opportunity to talk to them. And then once legislation was passed here, they really opened the door to having a one-on-one conversation with NYNA, New York Notary Alliance, and talking about, what their intention was. We were able to let them know the issues that we were still having or saw in the legislation that no one was aware of. So I think the point of my story, as I ramble on here, is that it took a lot of time and we didn't go the direct route. We didn't have the ability to. It never worked for us in the past. We had to join other industries and sort of make ourselves heard. So for those of you who feel like you're not heard or it's difficult in your state or you need a lot of you really don't. I mean, it was just me and my business development manager that really put all of this together. And we spent, I can't tell you how many hours, a lot of hours, but we just worked the system, right? We talked to the people that we knew had greater clout than we did. We really tried to rally the notaries. I will say that it was a little disappointing in how many notaries just didn't jump aboard, even now. So once RON legislation was enacted and we've had some changes and other things, like now we have ID standards and things like that, there's been a lot of notarial legislation has come through, including a change in our fee. So here in New York, we're allowed $2 per acknowledgement or jurat. And one of the senators has, opted to up it to $5. And we've said, okay, that's great. We'd like 15. But it's been difficult to get notaries involved in that. And I think some of that is that idea of, we won't make a difference or it won't make a change, or it's just the way that it is and always is. And that's unfortunate because I think, if anything, our example of what we were able to accomplish was we can do things in numbers. And I think the more numbers we have, the more vocal we are. So I would urge you, if you don't have a state association, then you don't really need one per se, as long as you have people who are willing to group together and help, right? You just need a support system. And if you're not sure how to start or get those people, then I would absolutely suggest that you reach out to some of us, right? Like I'm certainly not an expert here, but I can tell you how we were able to go about getting into our SOS, and maybe that would be helpful for you. I think the greatest thing about being a notary is the support system that we have across the country, right? So maybe what goes on in New York isn't what goes on in California, but Matt Miller and I have a great relationship. We talk back and forth, right? I refer notaries to his association. So I think that that's important to say, that maybe the specifics are not the same, but the end goal for us all to make our profession better and the individuals in it better and to have our voices heard is important. So, we have a lot of things pending currently right now. We have, oh my gosh, we have tons of stuff. We have a lot of deed fraud in New York State. So a lot of what's happening is putting more responsibility on notaries. We're working very hard to make sure that everyone's aware of what our role is and not put us in a position of more liability. We'll continue to do that on our end, but I certainly would urge you all to get involved. And if I can help anyone in any way, you can pretty much find me anywhere. I would certainly have you reach out. I'd love to talk to you.
Ms. Marcy, you said a couple of things that I just want to kind of touch on. The first thing is feeling like you don't have a voice. And I know I said it at the beginning, but you said it again, and I want to resound it because I feel like it's a really important message. So when I first moved to Arizona from California, I went from, and at the time, the California signature was $10 to be able to do it. And I moved to Arizona and it was $2. And I was like, what? Like, that's gross. I mean, that was just my mentality back then. And And I remember there were notaries who were brewing together, and there are some that will take credit for it, but believe me, they cannot take credit for it. It was the notaries coming together, signing petitions. Um, you know, UPS stores paid for a lobbyist to go down, and they worked together, and they got it raised from $2 to $10 a signature, which is a huge jump. It's not from 2 to 5, and you just said 2 to 5, and you're like, great, we'd like 15. That's one thing, is realizing that you have to work together in this industry. I understand that there's a lot of part-timers and those things, and they may feel like, I'm just here. If it doesn't last, it's great. But for the full-timers, the long haulers, believe me, banding together and joining a group and I don't mean just a training group. I mean an advocacy group. Maybe they introduce you to training, but a group that will point you in the right direction on how to write a letter, taking an action, formulating a petition yourself. Those things are really important. Now, you said another thing that really resonates with me right now. You said we saw the end of COVID as an opportunity, or COVID as an opportunity, because things change. And I actually have a beef with the Secretary of State of Arizona. By the way, to segue into this, another thing that we got changed was it wasn't fair that inmates, they would take the ID in Arizona, then we couldn't go in to do jail notarizations because they took the ID and we couldn't get the ID, and the inmate couldn't get the notarization. So we fought, now we can use the armband as an ID when we go into the jails, which opens up a stream of revenue for notaries, to be able to help the constituents of an entire state. But making a segue is COVID has changed things. In the state of Arizona, if you want an apostille, you have to make an appointment. There's no same day, I need to get this document out. These are things that notaries need to be talking about. We need to be writing letters, writing petitions saying, hey, I can't work with this, because we used to be able to bang out apostilles in the state of Arizona. And sure, it's about a financial responsibility for a financial thing for a notary, but you have to think about how you're not able to service the state itself, the people that need you. Take the money out of the equation. Okay, I mean, maybe it is something in the long run. It's a career. But if you're not talking out loud and saying, this doesn't work for the people, I have to turn away people who truly need an apostille that have to ship it out tomorrow, or they're going to lose XYZ. Take those scenarios. Don't just take the money for the ones you can do and make the appointment. Take those scenarios, put them together, and write your state lawmakers. And Ms. Marcy, I want to ask you, how did you actually formulate the New York Notary Alliance? What was your first step in putting a group like this together?
So I reached out to my accountant and I reached out to my attorney and said, I want to start this, advocacy group, and I'm just not sure how it's going to work out and if it's going to be like something that's going to last forever. I said, so can I just run it as an LLC and then bring aboard individuals from each county as an ambassador, and then somewhere down the road change it over to a not-for-profit to even gauge if I had any interest? And they were like, okay. I mean, I had talked to them about this before and they were always like, do you have time for this? And I'm like, I don't have any, I mean, I have to have time for this, right? And that was really how it started. I just went ahead, formed it as an LLC, got my website up and running, and then just started knocking on doors. And I still continue to do that every single week, right? But the interesting thing about this is that at the time, notaries were like, I don't have time for this. Like, it's not a priority for us. And I kept saying, but it has to be a priority, right? Because what you don't want to have happen is, like you said, a law change come along that's going to be harmful to the industry, and you've got no voice at that time. Like, we want to have a voice now to prevent things from happening down the road. So mine was really just the idea in my head of someone has to spearhead this, and no one else has done it so far. Like, everyone's done training or they teach classes, and that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I teach classes, but that wasn't helping, right, the industry, and it wasn't helping the notaries and part-timers, everyone. That's the thing, right? If we don't think our job is important enough to advocate for ourselves, why is anyone else going to think our job is important?
I do want to ask you this too, especially for those that are watching from New York that may be interested in joining. I hopped over to your website and I've been scrolling around and I want to ask, is there a membership fee to join your group?
So there is, we typically charge, I think it's 150 and we always knock off $50 and it's $100 for the year. And behind the paywall are other things like videos and one-on-ones, there was a document library back there. So there is a fee. We're actually launching a free directory that will have some other benefits to it in the course of the next week or so. But there's lots of content that's already on the forward-facing side that's free. We do monthly open roundtables, pretty much for notaries across the country, but certainly we have a lot of New York notaries who come in. We'll be starting meetups in New York, both virtually and in person in June. So if you subscribe to our newsletter on our website, we'll send you lots of good information. We really don't, I'll be honest, the fee is really to support, the website, the insurance, direct costs, hard costs like that. I'm not making any money off of this. I'd like to be very, forward facing about that. It's not about that for me. It's about making a difference and really making a difference in the law, not just for me, but for other notaries who are working out there. So whatever support you can give, we certainly appreciate it, but there's lots of free information and we urge you just to come join our newsletter, come to our roundtables. We have lots of free events that we run. We're happy to have you.
Miss Marcy, one thing that we like to do here at Notary Stars, so we try to become a member of each one of the advocacy groups that are out there. Some are more expensive than others. 150 is really not that bad of a price, especially for what I see that you offer on the website. So afterwards, I'd like to get in touch with you. We don't need to be listed in a directory or anything, but what we would like to do is if we, pay for, whatever, like a membership, we still remain on there, but maybe take our $150 and give it to someone who really needs it, that can't afford it, that could be a part of it. Just kind of like paying it forward. We want to support all of the groups that are out there to make sure that we all stay alive, and we're putting them all for the Notary Stars, or if it's your first time here tonight, we are listing all of these on our homepage at Notary Stars so that we can point you in the right direction of the advocacy groups that are out there fighting for you. One more thing, and tell me if you agree with this. I think sometimes people don't understand that just being a part of an advocacy group, you're going to hear what's going on, and the advocacy group can guide you to write a letter that needs to be written. You don't have to be standing at the courthouse or lobbying or doing all the grunt work. The advocacy group does the work for you. They just let you know when they need you to write that letter or when they need you to show up at an event, if you can. And that's where the strength in numbers really comes in. And I think sometimes people get afraid if they join, they're gonna have to be out on the street with signs going, hell no, we won't go. But that's not the fact of the matter. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I would say I almost prefer that not be the case, right? Sometimes, because then it's just too many cooks in the kitchen, excuse me. For me, the most important part of advocacy is just share the information, right? If I post it on social media, just share it. If I run a petition, just share it. That to me is so much more crucial than you coming and talking to a lobbyist, right? Or doing those things. Those are hard things to get involved in. I gotta be honest, I don't love it either. And I think that's the next important piece. Like people are like, you must really enjoy this. I really don't. Like I have a million other things to do in life besides this, but this is what I do full time. So how can I not do it? I'm going to say for everybody, just share the information, let everyone know. You just never know where it's going to go from there, right? And that was a big piece of us getting out there with the Ron legislation, is that there were people who had no idea that there was legislation and it would have impacted them. I can't tell you how many attorneys still reach out to me every single day and they're like, I don't understand the rule, I don't understand the law, can you explain this to me? We made a lot of friends in this. And that was just from notaries sharing that information. So for me, that is the crucial part. Tell everyone you know. That is just so important.
Wonderful. And then Marcy, first of all, I want to thank you for coming here today. But I want to know, is there anything that we need to know before before we start moving into other segments about the New York Notary Alliance that you really want people to know before we start moving into other segments tonight?
I mean, I certainly appreciate you having me, and this has been, a great platform to get the information out. I guess I just really want everyone to understand, advocacy, no matter where you are in New York or every place else, is so important. And what I've learned through this journey for me is that you can't give up and you can't back down, right? You have to work hard for that seat at the table. And we're going to do that here, no matter how long it takes me. I'm going to continue on that. If you're a New York Notary on here, we'd love to have you. If you're in another state and you need help, I don't care that I'm in New York. I want to support you where you are. And I hope that would be the same, for you helping support us.
And Miss Marcy, one thing that I want to say to you, tonight, and I really hope that you'll hear it, is everybody that presents this year, we want them to come back every month. So you're registered and you'll get the notifications. It's the third Wednesday of every month, same time. We would love for you to come back and provide us with any updates or say, hey, we need support or anything that's going on. What we want to do is continue having this event once a month where we take 1 hour and we put our ear to the ground and see what's going on in other states so that we can make sure that it doesn't happen in our states, or if it's happening in our state, you can hear about it so you can prevent it from happening in yours. I really strongly believe that if we work together, as all the states coming together for just 1 hour a month, we might be able to stop something from blindsiding us in the future.
Absolutely. Thank you again so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And I will see you all next month. If you need to reach me, I know these guys put my information in the chat. Feel free to reach out at any time. I like to think that I'm super accessible. But thank you all for being here and for being here to advocate on behalf of your state, right? That's important as well.
Yes, and please stick around because we're going to check in with Matt Miller now as well. And I'd love to have both of you on the screen, especially since we've heard that you guys are good friends. Matt from California, so we've got like literally basically the country and everyone in between tonight. I'd like to check in with you because I know that you've sent out some emails and I think that they've been, pretty important. And I want to check in with you what's going on in California. Let me make sure to make you a co-host here. I'd love to check in with you to find out what's going on in California that you'd like to get the word out about.
Sure. Thanks, Ronnie. Thanks, Marcy. And I mean, Marcy was sharing the pure gold there when she talked about you have to make time for this. It's important. But people like Marcy and myself and similar organizations, we're trying our best to make this easy for you. We'll do all the heavy lifting, we'll do the tracking, we'll do the lobbying, and then we'll inform you and provide you with tools to help you proactively participate. So a few things I wanted to talk about tonight are we are launching a brand new email advocacy action tool. So if you are a member or signed up for our newsletter, when we need individual notaries to participate in the lobbying effort by emailing letters of support or opposition on any particular bill, you now can do that with just a few clicks. So make sure you're signed up for our newsletter or are joined as a member at calnotaries.org. And we'll be sending out some emails in the near future weeks as the legislative session here in California heats up and some bills in the United States Senate are starting to get some more attention. For example, the Secure Act. And we are all against that because we do not want to see a federal takeover of the Office of Notary Public. Marcy has participated in this effort as well as many others. So look for that. Also, we are going to start a monthly roundtable the first Thursday of every month. The first one's going to be June 1st, which happens to be the first Thursday in June. And that's where we'll talk more in depth about active bills in the California legislature. We'll talk more in depth about the Secure Act. And we'll occasionally have other folks on from other states like Marcy to talk about active bills in their legislature as well, and what you can do to get involved, what's good and bad about the bills, and kind of what the strategy is going forward. So I hope everyone will sign up and join me on June 1st for that. Go to calnotaries.org, click on events, scroll down, and you can register for it there, similar to how you register for this monthly Zoom call. And then the last thing, well, actually last two things, I'm going to sneak in an extra one. I sent out an email alert earlier this week about a new real estate scam that is on the rise right here in California, involving cash transactions and pure electronic communication. So what the scammers do is they pose as buyers of homes, typically vacant homes or empty lots or rentals or seniors' homes, and they con a real estate agent into listing it for less than market value to spur a lot of interest, and then they'll only accept a cash offer. And when it comes time to sign the papers, they refuse to do an in-person closing and request a remote closing or an online closing. And then, of course, they go to great lengths to impersonate the notary, and then fraud occurs, and it usually isn't caught until it's too late, until the paperwork is submitted. So look out for weird things like that. If you own a home and you want to see if someone is trying to sell your home right beneath your feet, go on Zillow and some of those other sites and just see if your home is listed. If it is, then you know somebody's trying to scam you out of your house. So that's an important scam alert that we sent out, and we've sent out those throughout the year. So again, make sure you're signed up for at least our newsletter list. And then the last thing is a quick update about the California RON bills. So for those who've been listening, we have two bills, one in the Senate, one in the Assembly. They both passed out of their respective policy committees. That's the reason you haven't seen me online much recently, because I've been in Sacramento lobbying. And now they both are in their respective houses Appropriations Committee, and they've gone to suspense. And what that means is they will be reviewed privately and then possibly passed out of the Appropriations Committee, or possibly not. It's a very secretive process. And it just so happens the suspense hearing in both chambers is tomorrow. So we won't know anything until after hours tomorrow, hence the description, the suspense file. So that's kind of what's going on with those in California. And then, of course, the Federal Secure Act, the House bill that was passed out of the House in January, is still held tightly in the Senate Judiciary Committee. And there has since been a sister version introduced in the Senate, same exact bill, same language, same title, which has also been referred to the Senate Judiciary Committee, where we hope to keep those bills tightly tucked away until they simply die at the end of session. But that's the update I have for this week.
And Matt, if you don't mind me asking you before you speed off there, with California, because you know I run a signing agency, I'd love California Ron notaries. I mean, I'd love to have more and more Ron notaries that I can have, because it gets sometimes hard to do it. With what's going on, does it look like Ron is going to pass, or is it just still far off in the future in California?
Well, I kind of think that, you know, this has been going on for 6 years. I kind of think, and from what I'm hearing, one of these bills is going to pass. It's going to be which one is going to pass. And I'm going to go into a lot of detail of that in the June 1 roundtable. But basically, we've been able to lobby both judiciary committees in both houses, and they've basically got the bills aligned except for a couple of things. So one of the bills protects California notaries' jurisdiction and California residents, and the other bill doesn't. It would kind of set up a permissive environment where out-of-state platforms could kind of consolidate the business and then funnel it through notary farms in low-cost states, which was never a problem until it is a problem. And we've got a few scenarios playing out here in California where there's at least one county I know of that has over 3,200 residents, and they're down to just 5 notaries. And that's due to the slowdown in the real estate market and a certain RON platform targeting California. And you know,
Say
RON is
notarized, but if you won't say it, I will.
sure. You can say the name that is. But
It's no big secret. I mean, I have to say this. I am not afraid of Notarize, and I do not hide my opinions about it, because if you've watched any of these episodes this year, you will know I'm not the biggest fan.
well, they have made a number of missteps in a number of states. I'll say that much. But you know, RON, while convenient, is never going to be the appropriate solution for all situations. So you know, the residents of that county is now scrambling when they're seeking in-person notarization, and we don't want that to kind of kind of turn into a wildfire, and then California notary residents or residents of any state have to then search for notaries who are available to do in person. So we think one of the two bills are going to pass, but if we're going to pass something here in California, why not go for the gold? Why not go for the bill that protects notaries and the constituents we serve, and possibly set a new standard in this experiment we call RON, which then can filter out to all the other states as well. So we'll know a bit more tomorrow about which bill is going to move forward, or if they both are or they both aren't. But for now, that's kind of where we are with RON in California.
Perfect. Guys, I'm gonna move on, because we're trying to keep this at about an hour tonight, and we still have a little mini presentation. Before we move on to that presentation, I'm gonna ask, I'm posting a link in the chat now, and by the way, you guys, please feel free to post as many links as you want throughout the session tonight. I am posting something personal. This is from the state of Arizona, but you do not have to be in Arizona to actually sign this petition. It's a change.org petition. We're currently up to 469 supporters of that petition, and I would like to see that go over 500 tonight, because we got enough people on the call. So if you haven't signed it, please sign it, and then ask someone else to sign it. What we're doing here in Arizona is actually trying to raise the RON fee. So we were at, I believe, $20 or $25, and we're now stuck at $10, and we can't charge any platform fees. So which means we really can't help people doing RON unless we're doing a loan transaction. I'd like to be able to help people, of the general public as well, which, Notarize is sitting right here taking all of our business for, a nice big fee that we could be charging and be in the state borders. So we'd love to see your help on that petition tonight. So I posted it in the chat. If you could take just a moment to click on that link, put it on a browser there. And then now I'm going to move on to our next guest for tonight, if that's okay with everybody. You guys have been made co-hosts, so you are welcome. If you forget something, and not during the next person presenting, but if you need to add something in, please do. We have another guest in the house tonight for everybody, and I'm going to spotlight them. I'd like to introduce you. And first of all, before I introduce you guys, I want to say this. They reached out to me, and I'm going to tell you something, okay? And I want to introduce it this way. And I have an introduction that I'm going to read that they wrote for me, but I'd like to introduce from the heart. And here's what I want to tell you is they have a product that they believe in, that they found a solution for. Some of you may hear it and say, oh, well, there's a version of this out there, and that's great. But let me tell you something about America. Okay, there can be more than one product that does the same thing. It can come from a personal background of a person who decides, I want to do this and I want to do it this way. I found a way for a solution, and I can't wait for them to tell you the story about how they came to this. And I want to say that I'm very proud to have them here tonight, because from what I've heard the story, and I'll let them tell it, is Miss Nancy had a problem with PDFs and doing certain things, and her husband said, you know what, I can help you with that. And then we have this husband and wife team born, and now a new product that's out there. So I'm going to read the introduction that they helped write, but Pedro and Nancy are a husband and wife team and the creators of PDF Print Utility. With over a decade of experience as a notary and a signing agent since 2019, Nancy brings extensive expertise to the table. Meanwhile, Pedro, Nancy's husband, recognized the need for a reliable printing solution, and developed this remarkable utility. In the upcoming discussion, Pedro and Nancy will delve deeper into the functionality and advantage of this printing utility, offering notaries and signing agents alike. Get ready to explore a game-changing tool designed to streamline your printing process and enhance your professional notary efficiency. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Nancy and Pedro Riviera. And why don't you guys tell us all about Print PDF Utility? You gotta hit that unmute button there. I think it's just the space bar. Let me make sure I didn't just make you I wanna see if I made you co-host as well. There we go, that's my fault. Now, there we go.
Okay, there we go. Okay. Well, good evening, everybody. So thank you, Ronnie, for giving us the opportunity to share our experience and this utility that we put together. Again, you know, it's sharing a little bit about the background of how this came about. About 10 years ago or so, I saw Nancy wanted to get into the industry as a notary, and every time I would come home from work, I would see her struggling with her printer. And I asked her, I said, why is this so difficult? She started out, of course, very simple with a single tray printer, and she was trying to use different utilities. At first, she was using a Mac. And so with the Mac, it seems like everything just was complicated. And then she tried Windows and she couldn't get that to work. And I kind of observed what she was doing. And I said, you know, I think I see what your problem is, right? You're just trying to manipulate the printer in too many different ways. The document sometimes that you're getting isn't very good quality. Sometimes the PDFs aren't, you know, sometimes they're a little bit corrupt. Some of the pages aren't exactly 8.5 by 11 or 11.5 or 11 by 4 or 8.5 by 14. So, you know, depending on who's producing the documents, the pages may have different sizes, right? And the printer or even the software that you're using may have difficulty interpreting or understanding, you know, how it needs to get printed. So sometimes it shrinks it too much. Sometimes it prints it on the wrong page. Sometimes it goes to the wrong tray. So she went from a single tray to then a dual tray. I'm trying to see if she can solve that problem, and that was a no-go. So she tried using different things. Adobe for a while, seemed to work on Windows for a little bit. And then she tried to make it work on the Mac, and that was a disaster. So all I saw was my money going out the window, supporting her, wasting toner and wasting paper. And we had a shredder that, you know, it was just a disaster. We had bags of paper that we were just throwing out, and I just felt bad for the trees. So, so after, you know, as I said, after a while, and I saw what she was doing, I sat down and started to write some software. So a little bit about my background. I'm a software engineer. I've been in this business for just about 29 years. I started really young, graduated from high school when I was 16. And so I got into college, I got my engineering degree in software development, and was working in the industry full time by the time I was 19 going on 20. So with all of that experience, I said, you know, let's create something that's very simple. Then she showed me a few things that she's tried, and I thought, you know, we could simplify this. We can make this easy for you. So we came up and I developed a piece of software that is cross-platform, right? So she can use it both in Windows or on the Mac, and that it would look exactly the same, function exactly the same, be very simple, be very intuitive. And the idea behind it is basically it would work with a single tray printer or a dual tray printer. So starting with a single tray printer, basically all you would have to do is just open up your document, and it will tell you how many pages there is. And then you can decide at that point, if you have a single tray document, whether you only want to print legal or letter pages first. So the idea is you load up your letter paper, and then you open up your document, and you tell the software, go ahead and just print all of the letter paper first. And then it'll just print that out, right? And then once that finishes printing, you swap the paper out, and then you say, go ahead and just print all of my legal paper next. And then it'll print all that out. And now you've got 2 stacks. Then there's a nice little button, very simple. You click on it and it'll open up a window giving you your stacking report. So it'll tell you exactly how you need to reassemble your document. And what's nice about it is you can do 2 things with that report. You can actually print it, so you can go and just check it off as you go. Or you can write on the screen, just hit your space, or just click so that you click the ones that you've already done right on the screen. So you don't even have to print, that stacking report, right? And then once you're done, your report is fully assembled and you're done. Really simple as that. There's no having to upload your document to the web, no having to split your documents into multiple documents. There's none of that. It's just point, click, print, you're done. Swap your paper, and you don't even have to reload. The documents are already loaded. You just switch what paper size you want to print, hit print, and then you're done. And so it's that simple, right? And what's really nice about that, especially when you have a single tray printer, is that it doesn't require internet access, right? And that was a really big thing, because one of the things that Nancy was trying to do, she was trying to get more efficient with her process. So I suppose that every notary who does this has the same problem, right? One of the biggest obstacles in order to do more business in a single day, I find are 2 things, right? One, how efficiently you can get your documents produced without any waste and without wasting any time. And then number 2, can you actually produce more business while you're on the road, right? So if you want to be mobile, you have to be able to print. And sometimes connections aren't very good in some places, or you have to drive all over the place to find, McDonald's or with Wi-Fi. And some of those connections are sometimes a little bit spotty. So she needed to be able to print these documents without having to connect to the internet. So this utility gives her the opportunity to do that without being online. So as long as you have all of your documents, you're pretty much good to go. And then with the dual tray, it gets even easier, right? The software is designed to really look at the document at a low level and then decide, right, what the thresholds are for 8.5 by 11 versus 8.5 by 14, because some PDF documents are not very good about defining page sizes internally, right? So they have some variations depending on who produced the documents, right? And we found tons and tons of documents where I had to create algorithms in my program to be able to make sure that the thresholds were correctly. So almost guaranteeing a 99.9% accuracy in terms of when an actual letter is being printed, it goes to the letter tray. And when it's a legal letter, it actually goes to the legal tray, right? And then also to do it in a way where there's no setups, right? So you download it, install it, there's no setups, there's no having to configure anything, it just works, right out of the box. There's nothing you need to do. Aside from someone having to just make sure you've installed the right driver for your printer, and then that's it. So far we've had pretty good success with people giving us feedback that whether they're using a single tray or a dual tray, they just say it works. We've had a few cases where people say that it was printing duplex when it should just print non-duplex. And so we've actually set up an online meeting and to help them configure their printer. So that's part of the service that we offer with the membership. So I hope that all that kind of makes sense. I know it sounds like a lot, but it actually is a lot simpler when you get into it than it sounds. One of the other things also that we've done is you have the ability to also encrypt your documents. So a lot of times you download these documents and you probably need to hold them on your PC for a little while in case something happens or you need to reprint it or whatever. Nancy was always concerned. And of course, I work in the IT and the software industry, and I know how easy it is for a PC to get hacked, unfortunately, right? It's there's people out there that are dedicated to this kind of thing to try to get your files. So the software also has a feature where you can encrypt your document, right? You can assign a password to it. So it's more difficult for someone to be able to snag your document and be able to access it, especially since there's a lot of sensitive information in these documents, right? Social security numbers, phone numbers, addresses, right? A lot of personal information. And so when I was looking at that, I was like, if this was my information, I definitely don't want this roaming around unprotected. So, so it does have that also built in. Aside from that, it works Windows and Mac, no problem. And it is a subscription-based software. It's very, very cheap, very affordable. It's $39.99 a year to use. And the reason for the subscription is so that we can continue to support. It's not just about the software, it's about the support that we give as well. So we make sure that people have the opportunity to send us emails, asking us questions if they need help with setting up their printer. We do that as well. We've had cases where we've had to do that for people. And once they're set up, it seems like they're super happy with the results. I think we had one gentleman that said that he would waste about 2 hours just trying to get one package out, printed and get out the door. I felt bad. I'm like, wow, that's just that really is a lot of time, right? When you think about what you're really trying to do, just print. And he literally told me that he wasted reams of papers just trying to figure things out. Once he downloaded our software, we helped him set up his printer. He says that it literally takes him about 10-15 minutes to get everything printed and out the door with a package. So and so that's basically it. I know that sounds like a lot. That's really over the view.
I love it. And, I want to say this because we have, quite a lot of people watching, and a lot of people watch this replay. I want to point this out. Okay. Sure, there may be a similar product on Notary Rotary, but how many of you have ever met anybody that works at Notary Rotary or seen their faces? Same thing with Page Separator, similar product, but how many times has that product ever shown their faces? Hey, I built it. This is my husband and wife team that built it. Those websites are ran very similar to Notary Stars. There's only a few people behind the screen. When a business owner comes out and shows you their face, and you can see that it's a husband and wife team and they're there to answer your questions, ask yourself, which product would you rather to invest in? Also, you're supporting someone that's in the notary community. Page Separator, they're not here for notaries. They're here for a multitude of reasons. This product was actually invented by a notary and her husband. So I encourage you to support notaries who make a lateral move and small businesses that make a lateral move. And I do have to say this as well. If you are Latino or Latino, support small Latino and Latina businesses. I'm very honored that you guys are here, and I love that you have a product that you believe in. And I'm so happy that you have made it out here. And I want you guys to continue to stop by here and let us know what's going on with your product. Keep in touch. You guys have been nothing but wonderful to work with. I wanted to have you on last month, and my mom got sick and I was traveling, so things were a little bit harder. But I'm so glad that you guys could come in tonight and tell us about your product. And we've posted in the chat, if you guys haven't been able to grab the link, and I'll put it on the YouTube replay as well. Please make sure to click on the link and visit it. Last thing is, I want to ask you, is there anything else that you think in the last few minutes that you might have forgot to tell? I know what it's like being your first time presenting. You might be like, oh crap, I should have said that. Is there anything?
I should say, you have the opportunity to try it for 5 days. And if you get stuck in any fashion during those days, don't feel bad to contact us. We are more than happy to assist and set you up for success.
Right. The download is free, right? So there's you don't have to purchase to use the software. It's
no credit card required.
Yeah, it's completely free. You download it, the software will automatically be enabled for a week. Gives you the opportunity to try it. So it's like, if you like it, and it's not crippled in any way, every feature is enabled. So you can do, if you need to print a 300-page package, that it'll work just fine. And I really encourage people when we talk about this is, go ahead and download it, try it, put it under the gun. If you love it, subscribe to it. If you don't love it, then no loss, right? You haven't lost anything at all. So we stand by, and if you do have questions the first couple of days that you're using it because maybe your printer isn't behaving properly or whatever, on the website there's the email that we get directly, so we would turn around and give you an answer within an hour or so. If Nancy's here, she'd probably respond to you right away. We've had cases like that where we just immediately set up an online meet and then just go through it. And I think that's it. And then also we're going to be adding a Q&A page eventually of some adding some of the questions and answers that we've gotten so far. But fortunately, I suspect either we did a really good job because we really only had a couple questions and they're always the same. Is how do I turn off duplexing? And that's really it. We haven't had any issues so far, knock on wood. So, you know, and the reason I guess for that is because after we developed it, Nancy used the software for about 2 years before we even made mention of it publicly, right? So it was stress tested through Nancy's notary business.
And my notaries that I have trained.
I actually have one last question for you guys. I would like to personally purchase a year subscription for someone, but I'd like to do it in the form of a giveaway. So would you guys let me do a little lottery here tonight, and whoever wins,
Yes.
I will reach out to you guys and I will pay for it, and you guys give that 1 year subscription to whoever is. So with that, is that okay with you guys?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So for one person watching here tonight, I am thinking of a number between 100 and 176.
Oh, Ronnie.
If you could put to the chat your number, and I'll say stop when we're doing it, and whoever got closest, do it for another few minutes or another few seconds and stop.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, so let me scroll back through these and we're gonna see who got closest. Stop putting them in there. You don't count after I got anybody after I'm not getting counted. So let's go close, and you're gonna be amazed at the number. Whoever, let's see, I'm going back to the number. Got one close. Okay, Melissa Singleton won because my number was 176 and she is 175. So there's no one closer unless you typed in 176. If you typed in 176, type it in now to let me know, but 175 was the closest number. Okay, so Melissa, I need you to send me an email contact at notarystars.com so that I can get your contact information, and then I will pay for that 1 year membership so that you can try out this product for yourself. Everyone else, please support your local notaries and your nationwide notaries with their small businesses. You know, notaries are honest people. We have to take a background check. So, you know, you're working with good people. Guys, it's been a wonderful evening with you, with everybody here. I would like for you to turn on your cameras for all of the guests that came in tonight. And I'm going to say it the way that I say it, and then I'm going to have Beth do it properly because you guys know I like to talk off the cuff. If you are not naked and you are not stuffing your face with a sandwich, your face with a sandwich at the moment, please turn on your cameras and wave to those that were here tonight. Wave to those who are going to watch the replay. Wave to our guests that were in the house tonight. Let them know that we're welcome. Wave to yourself if you're watching the replay. And Miss Beth, how do we say it here at Notary Stars?
We would just want you to remember that we're all in the same storm. We might not all be in the same boat. Some of us have yachts, some of us have canoes, and some of us are actually dog paddling. So just remember to be kind, reach back and grab the hand of another notary that might be struggling and bring them along with you. Show them the way. Be kind, guys.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.